I wanted to add one other thing here, and I wish I knew how to clip it on to the other video, and I don't. This is kind of an interesting dichotomy, if that's the correct word that I'm looking for. I'm sorry, it's really late. If we do have to listen to the SBA FAQs, if they're really important and we have to listen to them, then number 17 is applicable. No changes apply to us. We can rely on the laws and rules and regulations that are in place when we applied. Okay. If we don't have to listen to it, well, this is FAQ 15. Should payments that an eligible borrower made to an independent contractor or sole proprietor be included in calculations of the eligible borrower's payroll cost? And the answer is no. Any amounts that an eligible borrower has paid to an independent contractor or sole proprietor should be excluded from the eligible business's payroll costs. And then it says, they can apply for themselves. Now, this is a whole other can of worms because the law is written with semicolons. And if you look up the definition of semicolons, you will see that they separate independent clauses. And the reason they are called independent clauses is because they are not dependent on each other. So the fact that a tribal concern qualifies has nothing to do with the fact that a nonprofit qualifies. And neither of them have anything to do with the fact that a self-employed independent contractor or sole proprietor can apply for themselves. None of which are dependent on whether a business which employs independent contractors and sole proprietors. So they're all independent clauses. Okay. And Bank of America actually communicated correctly in their emails, in saying, that the Federal Register and, the laws and everything said that employees include independent contractors. So gather your documents for 2019 payroll, including payments made to independent contractors with Form 1099 miscellaneous. The CARES Act law never disqualifies a worker based on tax form. Not one place. Not in the bill, not in the law, not in the interim rule, and not in any other piece of legislation. So the definition of employee in the CARES Act law, a lot of people have tried to tell me 1099 workers, independent contractors are not employees. Everybody knows that. Not according to the CARES Act. The CARES Act says that anyone who is employed on a full-time, part-time, or other basis, meaning seasonal probably, or some other type of commission-based, whatever it is. So literally, if you earn $1 on U.S. soil, you're an employee according to the CARES Act. Services are not covered. And that's pretty clearly stated in a lot of Bank of America's emails. It says, gather your 1099s paid to independent contractors via, 1099 miscellaneous paid to the IRS do not include services. Well, that makes total sense, because if somebody comes out and polishes your floor for, you pay them $500 and they go home and you don't see them again for 2 years until you call them back out, that's a service. That's a one-time service. And it makes sense that you wouldn't put them on your payroll and give them $10,000 and call them, one of your full-time workers. So So that actually makes a lot of sense. And the law does differentiate. The law says that, they use the verbiage workers and full-time equivalent employees interchangeably throughout the law and the interim rule and everything, in order to denote employees. They're employees, but, workers is literally someone who works in your business. A full-time equivalent employee is just that. And Bank of America defines it as a person who would otherwise be a full-time employee. So, all of these things add up. So when we look at this, I'm going to come back to the SBA FAQ 15 that says, do payments to an independent contractor or sole proprietor count toward, the cost of payroll and forgiveness? And it says, no, they can apply for themselves. Well, let's examine this, because we know that services aren't covered. They're not a covered payroll expense. Well, we look at the question and we say, well, it doesn't say services in here. Great. It doesn't say businesses either. So the fact that, the bill and the law and the interim rule and the application and the promissory note and everything carries a very explicit language that says if you paid salary to employees and payroll taxes or paid independent contractors with a Form 1099 miscellaneous, you're covered. That's explicit, and that says it says it everywhere. If we insert the word services into this FAQ 15, which then translates over into the interim rule, the April 15th, 2020 interim rule, which is causing all of the blocking of the billions of dollars. If we insert the word services, it creates no problems. There's no conflict in any law anywhere, and everything is, roses. Conversely, if we insert the words business or full-time equivalent employee, contractors that are full-time equivalent employees, if we insert any of that verbiage that we're getting blocked on now, it literally goes against everything in every piece of legislation and document available. So we can infer with almost absolute certainty that they are talking about services. But it doesn't say services. It doesn't say businesses, doesn't say services. So this question very literally doesn't say anything. It doesn't say what it wants to say. So it doesn't say anything. And because it doesn't say anything, we can't project onto it what we want it to say. I can't project onto it that it's trying to say services. And the SBA and the lenders can't project onto it that it's businesses. So we just kind of have to leave this question out because it doesn't say anything. It doesn't actually answer a question. It doesn't differentiate one way or the other what it's talking about. It doesn't specify. And when we leave it out, well, everything's qualified. The bill, the law, the promissory note, the application, the interim rule, again, all explicitly carry that exact same verbiage saying that if you paid independent contractors with a Form 1099 miscellaneous, you qualify. It's even in the definition of payroll. It says if you pay wages to an independent contractor, that's covered payroll. It says if you pay commission to an independent contractor, if you pay wages, commission, or income to an independent contractor, it is considered payroll. And then as an independent clause, it also says that if any money earned from self-employment, separately from wages, commission, or income paid to independent contractors, Again, they are not dependent on each other. They're independent clauses. So either, and this is where I'm getting at, either we have to pay attention to the FAQs. The FAQs say that rule changes don't apply to us. And number 15, about that doesn't differentiate between services or businesses, it doesn't say anything anyway, so it doesn't really matter, right? So either we have to listen to them and rule changes don't apply to us, or we don't have to listen to them. In which case, number 15 doesn't apply to us either. Doesn't apply to anything, right? Well, it doesn't anyway because it doesn't say anything. It doesn't specify whatever it wants to say. So anyway, those are just some additional questions to look at, possibly, and that we, in these years of working on this, have not been able to get answers to. Thanks.